When you think about the singles scene, the first image that usually comes to mind is the singles bar. And most of us see that as a place to find people in the fast lane, carefree times, flowing liquor, and easy sex.
But it's amazing how many people we found in those bars who told us they hate them. Hate them because of the artificial behavior and game playing that goes on. Still, the bars fill up night after night, and everyone is looking.
I'm not necessarily looking for a one-night stand. I'm looking for someone that I can possibly have some mutual common interest with.
Definitely one-night stands.
I'm never out in search of a relationship, if that's what you mean. No, not a one-night stand at all, no.
If you come to a bar, you know, you like to go out and meet young ladies, you know, get a chance to talk to them, you know. One thing leads to another.
I think that a lot of people are uncomfortable with being by themselves at night, at home, and that they feel that they want to be out and around other people, that they might be missing out on something if they're not out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Summerfields. Would you believe up on the dance floor? It's time to shake it all night long.
I got plenty of girlfriends. I don't need to meet them in a bar.
You ever go to bars like this to pick up women?
Yes.
What do you think of the men in here?
In here?
Yeah, in the bar.
Why do you think we keep coming back?
When you're trying to meet women in bars, how do you do it?
I'll send somebody a drink, personally.
Then what?
I'll look over when they get the drink, see how they respond, make some eye contact.
I make eye contact initially.
Look at them for a while, and if they ask you to dance, they ask you to dance.
You know, they don't sit back and wait for a man to pick them up. They just buy him a drink, or they'll go over and sit by him. Or
there's so many different approaches to that gentleman. It's unreal, you know.
What's your name? Your name, Barry?
You pick up tricks of the trade, as you can say. You know what to say and how to say it and when to say it.
Well, usually they just walk up to you and start talking to you. Most of the time they're a little too aggressive, and it's usually a sexual hustle.
Obnoxious, like macho, think they got it all. Well, they don't.
and they just think they're wonderful, and they get really yucky, and they don't pick up subtleties of please leave me alone.
I mean, if you ask a girl to dance and she just totally turns you down, now that'll bug you. You know, you really don't want to see that girl in the bar again, you know. You'd be better off if you didn't see that girl's face again, you know.
I think a lot of people that come down to the bars do so on a regular basis. At least I usually see the same faces, and it's a restlessness and a loneliness.
If they were to talk from their heart and talk from their gut, I think most everybody that's in a singles bar would be interested in a long-term relationship. They might say they're interested in a one-night stand, but I think those people, if they're unattached, yeah, they're out there looking for a husband or a wife.
The singles scene, however, doesn't end in the bars. In fact, many singles have written off the bar scene entirely.
But that doesn't mean they're simply relying on fate to meet new people. Tomorrow we'll take a look at an increasingly popular method local singles are using to find that special someone.
When you want to buy a used car or a house, the first place you look is in the newspaper, the classifieds. But most of you probably know that classified advertising is also catching on as a way to meet new people to begin sincere romantic relationships.
In the Twin Cities Reader, for example, for a few dollars, you can place an ad describing yourself and what type of person you're looking for. The letters your ad generates will be forwarded to you, while your identity remains confidential.
Now, if you've ever read any of those ads, you may wonder what kinds of people would get involved in such a thing. Well, here are two people who did.
That one ad was beckoning me to respond to it, and so I did.
Single mother, warm, pretty, professional, a little sophisticated and a little down home. Likes cooking together, family outings, travel, entertaining at home. Seeking articulate, gentle man, 32 to 40, not too self-centered, blue or white collar, good-looking, intelligent, funny, romantic.
I said, "You're beautiful," and I'm Mike. You better be Karen. She said, "I am Karen."
Then he gave me these roses, and I was charmed.
Sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? And to look at them, you would never have guessed that this was Mike and Karen's first date. They say that's the advantage of meeting through the eligibles. By the time they got together in this bar, they knew enough about each other to be comfortable, enough to bypass the awkward small talk you hear in bars. Still, there is a bit of a stigma to advertising for dates, and many of you are probably asking why Karen had to do that. After all, she's attractive and intelligent and has a good job buying electronic equipment for the University of Minnesota.
I meet a lot of men through my work, but it's not appropriate for me to ever become personally involved with them. And so I have a hard time running into men that it is appropriate for me to become personally involved with. And this seemed like a good way to find some.
Poor little duckling.
At 36, Karen is a divorced mother of two. She devotes most of her free time to her kids, Allison and Jamie. Karen just does not have much time to date. She hoped the ad would help her make the most of that time by bringing her into contact with people who share her interests. She got 23 responses, some long, some short, all different.
I even got a form letter here.
Aside from the obvious benefits of getting to choose among 23 men, Karen said this method made her feel in control. She doesn't think it's dangerous because initially no one had her last name and address. She talked to each person at length before deciding on a meeting, and then she made it in a public place. Karen's experience with the eligibles has changed her outlook on dating prospects.
I did kind of have the feeling, are there any good men left? They must all be taken. And now I can see that there are, and the 4 that I met were terrific. And there's 19 more.
40-year-old Mike St. Dennis considers himself one of the 4 lucky men whom Karen selected to meet. A divorced father of 3, Mike keeps busy with his job as a civics projects promoter. And like Karen, this was Mike's first experience with the eligibles.
It was between Christmas and New Year's. My children were out of town. I had no significant other in my life. And I was curious, and that particular ad of Karen's just sounded really creative, like a warm person had written it.
Mike says he's never had any trouble finding dates, but he doesn't like the bar scene because he believes that atmosphere is superficial. He says the person you thought you met in a bar one night can turn out to be someone entirely different the next day. Still, Mike says he had reservations about actually meeting Karen. He even called her at work on the day of their meeting to see if she still wanted to go through with it. But now he's very glad they both did.
There was a little risk on my part, but nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Of course, it's too early to tell if what started out like a fairy tale will actually end like one. After all, Karen and Mike have only had one date. But one thing is certain, they probably would not have met if they hadn't decided to take a chance on the eligibles.
Some people say the eligibles is here to stay. Others call it a passing fad. The people who publish the ads say the number of placements has mushroomed in the last month or so, and they're now getting about 500 responses each week.
Some people, though, still prefer to have others help them find dates. Tomorrow we'll take a look at dating services.
Most of us would like to think we don't need any help finding dates. In fact, a lot of people even feel uncomfortable about asking their friends to fix them up.
So imagine what it's like to actually pay someone to find you a date. It may sound undesirable, but hundreds of people here in the Twin Cities are doing just that. And for many of them, it works.
Prominent attorneys, some prominent politicians, We have many people that are well known in their particular profession.
Not the kinds of people you'd expect to join a dating service, but they all come to Casey Park, who runs A Better Way. This service is somewhat elitist. To join, you have to be a successful professional.
Then there's video dating. Its popularity isn't surprising considering our fascination with video games and gimmicks. You can get a good look at prospective dates, but it can cost you nearly $200 a year.
Computer dating was the original craze in electronic age dating, but all you get is a list of names. Gimmicks aside, the basic ingredient of most dating services is as ancient as the old world matchmaker. Here, the match is based on a lengthy personal interview.
And can you describe to me the kind of person you'd like to meet?
Oh boy. Naturally attractive. Somebody that's intelligent and good conversationalist.
Jerry Fry recently joined the Camelot dating service. He's 45 and he joined reluctantly because he thought he'd only meet losers. But after his divorce, he grew tired of the bar scene and he decided to take a chance on a dating service. So far, Jerry has met several women. One he's dated a number of times. The Camelot only gives out first names and phone numbers, and the couples decide the rest. Jerry says he's having a great time on the phone, quizzing the women he may want to date.
And you can be honest over the phone. Because all it is, all you got to do is hang it up.
But you also have to be realistic about what you expect from a dating service.
Because you don't want to prime yourself for being disappointed. If your goal is to get married within the next 3 months, the chances are you're not going to be satisfied.
But then again, you can be satisfied beyond your wildest expectations. Take Ivan Fox and Lisa Yeager. They're getting married next August. They met through the Jewish dating service.
I definitely did not go into it thinking I wanted to get married. No, I was really interested in meeting other people, having dates. I'm just tired of sitting at home.
Before joining the dating service, Ivan sat at home because he was new in town. He's going for his master's in business administration, and he says most of his classmates are already married.
Lisa is also from out of town, from New York. She went back to school to study for a BA in economics. At 27, she's a bit older than most undergraduates.
I put off doing it because of the stigma placed on dating services.
There's always that stigma, you know, the dating service, you know, gee, you must be really hard up or something.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I went out with like 30 or 35 men. It's great.
I don't think they really matched anybody, you know, to any kind of statistics or likes or dislikes. You just kind of went out with everybody. And I think that might have worked out best because dating, naturally, you do that kind of thing anyway.
Whatever the method, it certainly worked. But having met this way, there is one thing Lisa and Ivan don't like to think about. If either had not joined the dating service, they would never have found each other.
I'd hate to think that I would never have met Lisa.
I can't imagine life without him at this point. You know, I just can't.
Beyond meeting each other, Ivan and Lisa say they're glad they got a chance to go out with a variety of new people. It's hard to know what to talk about the first time you meet someone. Ivan and Lisa say they're better at that now.
A first date can be a little awkward for all of us, but for people who've been married a long time and suddenly find themselves single again, it can be downright traumatic. Tomorrow we'll take a look at the problems of learning to date the second time around. Older women, members of minority groups, those are just some of the people who often have special problems when it comes to dating in the Twin Cities. But there's also another group, and it's getting larger every year.
The newly single. They are people coming out of marriages or long relationships. Many of them say dating again is like a second adolescence.
Sweaty palms, possibly stammering.
I'm very scared. I don't want to be rejected again. Don't want to be hurt again.
When I was dating, back when I was 16, I was not allowed to call a guy. I was not allowed to ask. So this, now that I'm re-single, this is all real new.
You just keep dialing and you hang up, and dial and you hang back up. And then finally he answers and you say, "Hi, this is Linda. I called because I want to ask you out for a date."
Somehow it's easier to laugh when you can share your problems with others going through the same thing. That's why about 500 people at various Twin City locations go to this support group called We Care. They break up into small discussion groups led by facilitators like Bob Roach. He's not a professional. What qualifies him is that he was in the group when he was going through his own divorce.
Well, everything was an issue at once. Who pays for what? Who initiates sex? Do I even want to have it? I put it on the back burner for a while. That's the way I did it. And just, I'm going to put it out of my mind. And that worked for a while. Didn't work forever.
Some had the opposite reaction, and that meant many one-night stands.
And I wanted to go out and have fun. It was just killing me. And I started going out, and if it felt good, I did it. I just didn't care.
And so I went through a string of people, the same kind of thing.
And I found out the only person I was hurting was myself. And all this time, when I was doing it, I thought I was trying to hurt my first husband. And I wasn't, he didn't know a thing about it.
Many of the people here say they go through cycles before they find out what's right for them. Of course, newly single people aren't the only ones with special problems in dating.
There's very little social life in Minnesota for black females.
But I imagine that every mother here wonders if her daughter's going to have a date for the prom. I was assistant principal at Central High School, and there were many young black women who, to the very day of the prom, was wondering who they could get to take them because they weren't being asked. You know?
Demographics is one major reason those perceptions are held by black women in the Twin Cities. Relatively speaking, there just aren't many blacks here. Only about 2% in the metro area. Another reason for those feelings, interracial dating, which seems to be more common between black men and white women. When these women first moved to Minnesota, they were shocked by the interracial dating scene here, and they say they immediately noticed a shortage of eligible black men. But they reacted differently. 39-year-old Rosa Smith and 49-year-old Barbara Andrews say, like many black women here, they've placed finding a husband lower on their list of priorities. But Charlotte Gibson and Ellen Hurley, both in their mid-20s, have chosen the less common alternative of starting to date white men.
My attitude toward interracial relationships has changed drastically. Since I've been here, I've dated like 3 white men and maybe 4 black men.
I guess my opinion on the whole thing is just, you know, you're only here once that I know of in this lifetime, and don't limit yourself career-wise, relationship-wise.
The younger black women are doing that more. Older black women are looking, saying, go on, go for it.
While those women are handling their situations differently, they all agree that the problems facing most single black women here are not likely to change in the near future.
What has already changed, and dramatically, is the lifestyle of singles in general. At least that's what the experts say. According to them, that means enormous changes in our sexual lives and our family lives. Tomorrow night, we'll look at those changes.
Now, when I was of the teeny bopper age, boys and girls gave each other rings as symbols of friendship. Well, what do you think the kids are doing now? They're giving each other safety pins and beads. And what's more, they're wearing them on He started buying all the safety pins and beads he could get his hands on, and contracted with some 250 unemployed local residents, many of them handicapped, and put them to work packaging his product. Now the friendship beads are selling like hotcakes in 31 states, and that doesn't count the handful of other manufacturers around the country who also capitalized on this craze. How did this fad start?
Well, it's something that nobody really knows, but as far as I can tell, it was somewhere in the central part of the United States. For a change, it was not the west or the east coast that got a trend going. It was started somewhere, we think, around Kansas City. and spread itself outward from there.
So far, Curry has gone through 15 million safety pins and 10 tons of beads, and he's said to have contributed to a nationwide shortage of those items. But he says he only expects the fad to last until You say they mean what?
Friendship.
Byron Barnett for ABC News, Minneapolis.
Guys too now. We love them. We just love to look at them pretty legs.
It seems that the latest popular wisdom is that the sexual revolution is winding down. You read a lot of articles claiming that people are acting more conservatively.
But many experts don't believe the pendulum is swinging back. Rather, they say the sexual revolution is at a plateau and that singlehood is now a thoroughly acceptable choice.
It's an honorable state. It's a legitimate state. And that not to be married is okay.
Experts like Gerhard Neubeck say it's in the last 10 years or so that being single has become much more acceptable. And that makes sense, considering how much the number of singles has grown in that time. Here in the Twin Cities, there were about 360,000 single adults in 1970, nearly 487,000 by 1980.
Lately, I've been getting a lot of, you're 29 now, why aren't you married? You should be getting married soon or you're going to be in the same situation in a year. But that's okay for me now to not be married.
A lot of people of her generation are also saying they're tired of the bar scene, tired of casual sexual relationships. Does that mean the sexual revolution is dead or dying?
It might be an age thing, like we've talked about before, in that some of the older people maybe are getting tired of doing it. The younger people, I don't know. I don't know if it's changed that much.
My impression is it hasn't changed very much. I think because of both gonorrhea and herpes, people may be a little bit more careful. But I don't think that 10 years have made much difference in that respect.
Not only are more people staying single longer, more people are also getting divorced. That means many singles are older. Many are also heads of households. Experts say the single-parent family has become accepted as a new kind of family unit. With the pressures of work and raising children alone, these new single parents have to find alternative ways of meeting people. Some, like Karen Triplett, are taking charge instead of relying on fate. Karen has opted to advertise for partners.
Other singles say they're better off just doing things they like to do, hoping they will meet someone with the same interests. One result is that places like health clubs have become popular meeting grounds for singles.
You meet professional type people, you meet people that have an interest like you do, keeping fit. It's more of an honest relationships, more open.
Still, the big pitfall of single life is loneliness. Experts say many people get lonely because they're uncomfortable with themselves or they're afraid to go out and meet others. Unemployment is another complicating factor. A tough economic situation can make someone a less desirable partner, and it makes it harder to participate in a lifestyle based on going out. But despite those problems, fewer people are looking to marriage as an automatic solution.
I guess I don't think that just single people have the corner or the market on loneliness. I've seen more people who have been in unhealthy marital relationships or relationships that are extremely lonely.
But just try walking into a room full of people who have been both married and single. If you ask what they miss most about being married, they may all say the same thing.
Companionship, someone that cares about companionship. What's the best thing about being single? The freedom. Independence. Freedom.
We can probably conclude that being single and staying single longer is now more acceptable and more desirable than ever before. But there's one thing that experts and laymen seem to agree on. Few people plan to remain single forever.
And if we accept that, it means most people still see being single as a transient state. It means that many singles are still looking for love.
I say only in quotation marks, 3,000 people into custody, and about 1,200 of them cannot be found? Why is there no outcry in the press? And why should there be double standards? And by the way, 1,400 houses illegally built by all sorts of people in Beirut and in southern Lebanon were destroyed by the Lebanese army, also in the presence of the three multinational forces of the West. And I am not to judge whether it should have been done or not, but it is a fact that the world press does not dedicate too much room to these events, and it caused again many homeless people to move out from houses.
Let me be sure I've got you right. You say, what you're saying is the press is held to the stand cover. That's what you said?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask another question. Recently, the Argentinian Jew by the name of Jacobo Timmerman published a book about the war, the Lebanese portion of the war. And he said that a fundamental character has been changed. Wars have now become the victimizers. That the Jewish perception, or the perception of the Jew, and you agree with that perception?
I completely disagree, and I would like first of all to say a few words. I didn't read the book, but Mr. Timmerman is a man with a certain background. I don't know whether communist fully or communizing. And in the first place, when he was imprisoned in Argentine, I, who am a liberal in Israeli, the head of the Liberal Party in the former Knesset, I was not the one who said that we should fight to liberate him, to free him. I was not the one. Now, what sort of an expert is he on Lebanon? Has he ever been there? Has he been living in the northern settlements with the children who were living in the shelters for the last 6-7 years? And does he have any idea of the disrupting effect of the oil pay or PLO in Lebanon? What do you mean victimizing? We entered Lebanon in order to destroy a state within a state and return the sovereignty of Lebanon over their own territory. Do you know that the entire infrastructure in the south, including Beirut and certain parts north of the northern part of Lebanon, none of the institutions, Lebanese institutions, were functioning for the last 7 years. Neither legislative, nor executive, and nor judiciary. No court, no police. The PLO had their customs office. They had their ports, they imported, they imposed taxes, and they trained 34 subversive movements in their camps. So did we, was this an invasion, or was this a campaign to restore the sovereignty of a nation which was actually dominated by subversive terrorist movements, and including Syria?
Well,
of course,
you're saying it's a foreign.
Particularly if this action was not an action by the neighboring country's government, but by a movement which has dominated. First of all, I'm going to restore the sovereignty of that country, and second, I'm going to destroy the infrastructure of a terrorist, my own citizens and my own villages and towns. So coming back to Mr. Timmerman, who wants to be plus catholique le pape, more Catholic than the Pope himself, I've known many of my Jewish fellows who are trying to be to prove that they are universal liberals, and that they served in the army. Has he done something for our own people except for preaching all sort of leftist liberal ideology? I didn't read the book, and that's all what I can say. in my opinion, he carries no... I'm not the man who is going to establish the fact whether there was ill judgment or misjudgment. Or we have a committee of inquiry, and you know that there is no country in the world which is more democratic than ours, that you can just convene the Prime Minister to give evidence and send him a letter and tell him that if he does not do A, B, and C, he may be exposed to further incrimination and so on. I, for one, am awaiting the results of the committee's inquiry. All I could say is that by virtue of my experience, both in the army and in public service and in our parliament, I could say that there is room for saying that here and there was a faltering in maybe a dereliction in communication, maybe a shortcoming in judgment, maybe. And I would say that I can rely on the committee of inquiry, that they will pass a very reliable and objective view on the events and after effects of the events in light of the evidence which has been given to them. Surely it will have an effect on the public opinion in Israel. If they establish in the committee that A and B and C, or A was not judging and not appreciating right the human conditions and the emotional, I would say, vindictive views of the Falangas and so on. This is an incrimination which will have implicit and maybe direct results in the political life in Israel. And then they may say that A and B failed in communicating with one another. The problem is, what will be the result? Will there be new elections or not? And I am positive, this is my opinion, that in 1983 we will probably go to the polls and ask for a new vote of confidence in the present government, and maybe there will be some changes in the political formations in the Israeli party system.
And it's been 5 years, so basically what you're saying is the clock is pretty well run on the next vote of confidence as opposed to requiring one as a result of the inquiry.
Well, there was an election. First of all, I consider President Reagan as one of the great staunch friends of Israel. Second, I would like to say that if it were for me, being a parliamentarian, I would have never embarked upon a harsh and outrageous reply. I would prefer to dialogue.
I'm sorry, I missed the point. You would never embark on?
I would have never embarked on a policy of harsh and outrageous replies. I would rather dialogue, because in my by virtue of the fact that I am a parliamentarian, I always like to dialogue. I'm never bitter and what I would say in anger and in my relationship with other nations and with other parliaments. Now, as it goes for the Reagan plan, which you might have referred to, I think that we must distinguish between three elements. The first was psychological, the second pragmatic, and the third was substance. Psychologic, if you look at the performance of Israel in the Lebanese campaign and what it meant for the United States and for the free world, which is the acquisition of all or most of the secrets on Russian sophisticated weaponry, which will have a direct effect on American strategic thinking. B, if you consider the fact that we have reduced Soviet influence in the Middle East to practically nil, because the Arab countries, particularly Lebanon and so on, do not trust the Russian weapons and do not trust Russia.